Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the UGAsports.com Quick Take. I'm your host, Jason Butt. Hey, it's been a minute. It's also been the offseason blues. It probably feels that way to a lot of you now that Todd Monken has decided to leave the UGA football program to become the new offensive coordinator with the Baltimore Ravens. First, I just want to congratulate him. I think he exceeded expectations, at least on my end. A lot of people were excited about his offense when Kirby Smart hired him and what he was able to do with a former walk-on quarterback turned starter, turned maybe arguably the most important player, best player, however you want to describe it, player in Georgia history, and Stetson Bennett. What he was able to continue with the run game. Major props to Todd Monken. He will be missed, I think, but with any successful offensive coordinator, any successful assistant in college football, you have to expect that one day they're going to move on. You can't keep those guys forever. That's a rarity where you get a long time, a Mickey Andrews type, who stayed at Florida State forever. That stuff just really doesn't happen. And Monken is one of those guys who doesn't really care to be a head coach. I mean, how many head coaches can you think of? I mean, I can only think of one, and his name is Todd Monken, who, was a head coach. He was at Southern Mississippi, was successful as a head coach, continued to progress, win games, had a 10-game winning season. I'm 98% sure it was 10 wins, but had a season like that. It was either 9 or 10 wins, and then decided to leave to become the offensive coordinator of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And in that role with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he didn't even call plays until the final year when Dirk Cutter, his head coach, was under pressure to spark the offense. And so, Monken is a different kind of guy. He really just wants to coach. He doesn't want to deal with a lot of the other stuff that comes along with college coaching, that other stuff really meaning recruiting. And this is something we touched on the Sunday Collins show. We brought it back. We're going to be doing it every other week. Until spring football really ramps up. But, Ben Bachman, Paul Meharry, and myself, we discussed, Todd Monken, his role in recruiting. And that it's just something that I think it wasn't really a secret. Monken is not really somebody who cares to recruit. And at Georgia, his recruiting responsibilities, because of how good of an offensive coordinator he is, his recruiting responsibilities were very limited to quarterbacks. And, quite frankly, I think any recruiting is still recruiting. And in the offseason, the hand-holding that needs to be done, whether it is in college football, whether it's through recruiting, whether it's through, your younger players on your team who, you have to manage. I think at the end of the day, it's just something that, if you can make the same kind of money, if not more money in the NFL, where the only drawback is dealing with, great players who have egos, who may not want to listen to you and may not think they need coaching at this stage of their lives. That compared to maybe a lot of the other college drawbacks that were just mentioned, I think for a guy like Monken, the NFL is a lot more or a lot easier to handle in that respect. Somebody who just wants to focus on offense, focus on coaching and scoring points and doing those sort of things. And in Baltimore, obviously, they got a great quarterback right now. We'll see how things play out this offseason if they end up having to move Lamar Jackson and getting a new quarterback, or if Lamar will end up staying. And if Lamar ends up staying there, I think that can be one hell of an offense. And Monken can be somebody who really elevates Lamar, who, I mean, he's got an arm. I mean, I think anybody who continues to say that he can't throw the ball, I think they're fooling themselves. They had just Greg Roman and them had just built that offense around running. And the thing with Lamar is he's got to learn how to, or not really learn, they just got to get him more comfortable throwing outside the hashes. He loves inside the hashes. That's why Mark Andrews is so great. And guys, some of those outside receivers that he's had, really haven't been able to produce in the manner that you would have liked if you are a Ravens fan. I am not. I just love fantasy football. And I've had been burned by I'm blanking on the guy's name right now. Actually, the guy that this past year, the guy from Minnesota that they had drafted. Anyway, that's Todd Monken. Fast forward, an hour later, I don't know. If you were on the UGAsports.com dog vent, you knew coming in that Mike Bobo was getting the gig if Monken left. Mike Bobo's got the gig. He's the offensive coordinator. I think people forget just how good Mike Bobo was at Georgia. He coached Aaron Murray, who still holds passing records for most passing yards in a single season. Most passing attempts in a single season. I mean, this guy Aaron Murray, career. I forgot to even say that. Most passing yards in a career. He lit it up under Bobo. Obviously, Murray's excited. And then when he had Hudson Mason as his quarterback, the stopgap in 2014, Mason only threw for 2,168 yards, 21 touchdowns, only threw 4 interceptions. Thing with Mason was Bobo kept him in really safe situations, 67.9 completion percentage, and the run game was ridiculous. Todd Gurley gets hurt that year. Nick Chubb steps up as a freshman, 1,547 yards and 14 touchdowns. Gurley had 9-11 and 9 that year. Sony Michel, 4-10 and 5. They ran the ball at will on teams. You can bet that with Mike Bobo, you're going to get the same running game. Here's the thing, though, and this is where we'll conclude this. I think a lot of people are like, oh, no, it's Mike Bobo's scheme, and it's Todd Monken's scheme. Look, a lot of the successful teams, whether it's college football or pro football, and we'll go back to the Ravens, because I covered the Ravens for 2 years, way back, and John Harbaugh, to this day, and other teams say this too, but, what you do as a coach, over time, you try to construct an offense that can withstand assistants, because assistants are going to leave. If they're successful, they're going to become, they're going to go to the NFL. They're going to, most of the time, unlike Monken here, they're going to become head coaches when they're successful. So you want to have a system in place where other assistants, external or internal, can come in and use that system. The Falcons were a good example in a not great way, where Dirk Cutter has a preferred system. When the Falcons, when Steve Sarkisian left, when he was let go, and they brought in Dirk Cutter, they wanted Dirk Cutter to continue to run the system in place for familiarity purposes to keep Matt Ryan happy. John Harbaugh always says, this is the Baltimore Ravens offense. It's not whichever offensive coordinator's offense. It's the Baltimore Ravens defense. It's not the whichever coordinator's defense. That's what's going to happen here at Georgia. Todd Monken's offense was so successful because when you switch schemes and when you want to do those sort of things, generally that's when an offense isn't successful. It's when you James Coley, it's if you leave, it's okay. We're okay with this. So that sort of thing, where you want to move on from that particular system. That's when you install something different. Monken's system, with Mike Bobo working as an analyst under him, with that system being so successful, they're not going to stray away. The differences come with considering it's Monken who installed this. Monken is comfortable and most familiar with it. And especially when it comes to big game situations or big moment situations, what to call here, what to run on third down, etc. That's where Georgia's going to miss Monken the most. But in terms of this kind of offense, that's not going away. It's going to be Mike Bobo calling this sort of offense. And most of these concepts are familiar to Mike Bobo. It's not like and the other thing I want to touch on is football is such a copycat game. When you talk about system and scheme and all this, most of these coaches, are incredibly familiar with all this stuff. They study it. They know it. So that aspect, as long as Georgia has great plays, the fact that Mike Bobo's history suggests and shows that he is not somebody who gets in the way and folds in crucial moments. I mean, you look at the 2014 season, those losses were mostly not due to the offense. South Carolina, they gave up 38 points. I think it was 38-35 that year. It wasn't the coach's fault in the Georgia Tech game that year that they lost 4 fumbles or however many fumbles it was. I think Florida was a different story. Nobody showed up that game, I feel like with Georgia, the talent they have an experienced coordinator in Bobo. I don't think there's as much to worry about as some might say, and I think most people are aware that this is a good transition. And Dane Young pointed this out. This is where I'll close. I know I said I was going to close like 3 minutes ago, but Dane Young, shout out. He had a great point. Georgia now has a trio in place that I don't know at this stage of their careers that they're going to be looking for other jobs. You've got Kirby Smart at head coach. I mean, no, of course not. He's got his dream job. Will Muschamp is one of the defensive coordinators. So Glenn Schumann's the next one who's going to go get a job somewhere else. I mean, rising star, waiting for one of those premier opportunities to open up. That's when he'll leave. And but Will Muschamp, I don't know. Will Muschamp's had 2 head coaching opportunities, Florida, South Carolina. They didn't work out. I think, maybe at some point, but, why? I mean, he's got a great thing going at his alma mater. And then Mike Bobo. I think Mike Bobo, it didn't work out for him at Colorado State. He's, getting to a point in his career. I don't know if CFP appearance after CFP appearance, I don't know if you're going to see, you got these guys, somebody who's excelled as an offensive coordinator, somebody who's excelled as a defensive coordinator at Georgia under Kirby Smart. I don't think you have to really worry anytime soon in the next few years about those guys leaving for other jobs. And so that is pretty remarkable. And it's kind of an ideal transition you're going to make, from Todd Monken, if that moment ever came, and here we are with that moment coming. So I'm not worried about it. I think Georgia's still in a great position moving forward, with Mike Bobo. But Todd Monken will be missed. I mean, he brought something to Georgia that, the excitement on the offensive side in terms of just the being able to air it out and the deep ball and the excitement in the passing game that hadn't been seen in quite some time, really, since Aaron Murray was airing it out under Mike Bobo. And with that, I will close the UGAsports.com quick take. Didn't happen to be so quick today. Obviously, we're in the 13th minute now. So you guys take care. If you haven't, go to the UGAsports.com dogvent and subscribe. Best community for UGA sports fans on the World Wide Web. You guys have been awesome. I've been Jason Butt. Y'all take care.